So, here's the deal. My wife and I have been married for 7 years. It wasn't always perfect, but we were solid. No major red flags, just the usual ups and downs that come with life, work, and everything else. But lately, I've been feeling like something's off. I'm not sure when it started, but there was a noticeable shift in her attitude about a month ago. It started small, like her suddenly questioning everything I did. She'd ask where I was, who I was with, and then I'd catch her staring at me like I'd done something wrong. I'm not perfect, far from it, but I've always been faithful. I'd never cheat. I know that sounds like a cliché, but it's true. At first, I shrugged it off. She's just stressed, right? Work's been tough for her, and we've had our share of personal issues to deal with. But then it started getting worse. I'd get home late from work, things were busy, and she'd be there, waiting by the door, arms crossed. Where were you? Who were you with? She'd ask, voice laced with something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Accusation? Doubt? The more I tried to reassure her, the more distant she became. She'd pull away when I tried to talk to her, barely acknowledge me, and just go on her phone. It was like I was a stranger in my own house. Now, I've always prided myself on being an open book. I tell her everything, where I'm going, who I'm talking to. So when I noticed the change, I was confused. Why would she think I was hiding something? Could she really think I'm cheating? This feeling of being constantly under scrutiny started wearing me down. I kept thinking I was imagining it, but my gut kept saying otherwise. Something wasn't right. But what? I had no idea how deep it went. It wasn't just her behavior anymore. It was the little things that added up. Her random digs at me, the way she'd ask about women at work or make snide comments about my friends. One night, she started grilling me about a work event. I'd gone to one where I didn't even stay that long because I had a lot of work to catch up on. She kept asking the same questions over and over, as if trying to catch me in a lie. I was starting to get seriously frustrated. But then, the worst thing happened. I came home one evening after a long day at the office. My mind was occupied with a project I had to present the next morning. I threw my stuff down, ready to relax for the first time in days. That's when I saw it, her phone, lying face up on the kitchen counter. Normally, we're pretty chill with phones. No snooping. But that night, for some reason, I felt a weird compulsion to look. And I did. I'll be honest. I didn't think I'd find anything, maybe just a text from a friend or a work email. But no. What I found made my stomach drop. She'd been talking to someone. And not just anyone. Some guy I'd never heard of, sending texts like, "Miss you, can't wait to see you again," and "You looked amazing last night." There was more, but you get the picture. My heart sank. I know what you're thinking. This is the moment I should have confronted her. But I didn't. I just stood there, staring at the screen. I felt sick. Part of me wanted to pick up the phone and call her out on it right then and there. But I didn't. Instead, I slipped the phone back into the same spot, tried to act normal, and decided to hold on to this information. I needed to be smart about this. But I wasn't feeling smart. I was feeling hurt, confused, and completely betrayed by someone I trusted. I was torn between confronting her immediately or pretending like nothing had happened. The next few days were tense. She'd act like everything was fine, but I knew something was up. It was like living in a house where every room was full of lies. I tried to act normal, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Was I overthinking this? Or was there something seriously wrong? I didn't know. I just felt like I was losing my mind. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The frustration, the confusion, the sense of betrayal, it was eating at me. So one night, after dinner, when she was sitting there scrolling on her phone, I decided I couldn't just pretend like everything was fine anymore. I needed answers. I sat down across from her, and before I even knew what I was doing, the words came spilling out. "Who is he?" She froze, her eyes darting up from the phone like a deer caught in headlights. "What are you talking about?" she said, trying to sound casual, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she avoided my gaze. "You know who I'm talking about," I said, my voice tightening. "The guy you've been texting. The one you've been talking about missing and can't wait to see again. Who the hell is he?" Her face went pale for a second, then she quickly recovered. "I don't know what you're talking about. It's nothing. Just a friend from work." "Friend? A friend?" I nearly laughed, though there was nothing funny about this situation. "You're telling me a friend sends you messages like that?" She sighed dramatically, almost like she was trying to feign exhaustion. "Oh my God, you're so paranoid." "It's nothing. Really. Just someone who likes to talk." "You're being ridiculous." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was lying and not even trying to hide it. I stared at her, trying to make sense of this. but nothing was clicking. You think I'm paranoid? I was starting to lose my patience. You're texting another guy, and I'm paranoid? I've never given you a reason to think I would cheat, and this is how you repay me. She rolled her eyes, then got up to leave the room. You always overreact to everything. I can't talk to you when you're like this. I grabbed her arm before she could walk away. No. We're talking about this now. She yanked her arm free, looking at me with something I can't quite describe. Disdain? Annoyance? You're so controlling. It's just a friend. I can't even have friends anymore without you losing it. She scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I felt like I'd been slapped. Are you seriously trying to turn this around on me? I asked, barely holding it together. You're the one lying, and now it's my fault? She didn't even flinch at my words. You just don't trust me, and I don't know how much longer I can deal with this. Maybe if you showed me you cared for once, I wouldn't need to look for attention elsewhere. I was stunned. There it was, the accusation that cut deepest. It wasn't just about the guy. It was about me not being enough for her. I didn't know what to say. My heart was pounding, and I could feel the weight of everything collapsing around me. But I kept my cool, or at least, I tried to. If I wasn't enough, then why are we even here? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She just shook her head, turned, and walked out of the room. No more words. No explanation. Nothing. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just dealing with a situation where she might be cheating. I was dealing with someone who had decided to start tearing apart everything we had, someone who was too selfish to even acknowledge the damage she was doing. I sat there for a long time, the weight of it all pressing down on me. I wasn't just hurt, I was pissed. But more than that, I felt this profound sadness. How did we get here? What the hell happened to us? The next few days were a blur. I couldn't focus on anything, work was falling apart. My mind was constantly running in circles, and my emotions were all over the place. I felt like I was losing my grip on everything. I was angry, sad, confused, and worst of all, I felt small. It was like she was the one in control now, twisting everything I said and making me question my own reality. Every time I tried to talk to her, she'd either ignore me or shut me down with some dismissive comment. There was no resolution, no closure. Just silence and tension, thick enough to cut through. What I didn't realize, though, was how much this emotional turmoil was affecting me in ways I didn't fully understand yet. I would snap at coworkers, lose focus at work, and feel drained when I came home. I was putting on a mask just to survive each day, but it was all slowly falling apart beneath the surface. Then came the moment that hit me the hardest. One morning, I woke up to find her gone. There was no note, no text, just an empty spot on the bed where she'd been. Her things weren't packed, but she wasn't in the house. I called her phone, no answer. I texted, nothing. I could feel the panic rising in me. What the hell was happening? Was she gone for good? Or was she out there with him, the guy I'd seen on her phone? Every worst-case scenario started racing through my mind. I tried to stay calm, but the pit in my stomach was growing deeper by the minute. After what felt like hours, she finally called me back. Her voice was casual, almost too casual. Oh, I just went out for a walk. Needed some space. Space. I could barely get the word out, my heart pounding in my chest. From me. She laughed, though it sounded hollow. You're overthinking it, seriously. I just needed to clear my head, that's all. But the way she said it made my skin crawl. It wasn't the explanation I needed. It wasn't an apology or an attempt to fix things. It was just her brushing me off again, like I was some nuisance she had to deal with. I wasn't stupid. I knew what was happening. She wasn't just taking space, she was emotionally checked out, maybe even physically gone already. And here I was, stuck in this emotional limbo, trying to keep something alive that I wasn't sure could be saved. I felt like a fool. Like I'd been blind to the signs for so long. I had been bending over backwards to be a good husband, to be patient and understanding. But none of that mattered. She was already done with me, and I was too caught up in the whirlwind of emotion to see it clearly. But something started to change in me during that time. As much as I wanted to crawl back to her and beg for things to go back to how they were, a part of me knew I couldn't. Not anymore. If she didn't see my value, then what was the point of staying in this broken marriage? The decision wasn't clear yet, but I could feel it forming. Something inside me was telling me that I couldn't let this destroy me, no matter how much I still loved her. The thing was, I wasn't just angry at her. I was angry at myself too, for letting it get to this point. I had ignored the warning signs, ignored my own worth, all in the name of love. And now I was stuck with the painful realization that love, in this case, wasn't enough. This emotional roller coaster wasn't just about her actions. It was about me. About learning to stand up for myself and stop sacrificing my happiness for someone who didn't even appreciate it. I don't think I've ever felt more lost than I did in those next few days. It was like my life was in pieces, and I had no idea how to put them back together. Every interaction with her felt strained, like we were both walking on eggshells. We'd exchange a few words here and there, but they were meaningless, just empty exchanges. She'd get short with me, then go silent, her attention diverted to her phone or whatever she could focus on to avoid looking at me. One evening, after yet another tense dinner where neither of us had said much of anything, I snapped. "I can't keep doing this," I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of frustration and despair. "I can't keep pretending that everything is fine when you're clearly checked out. You don't trust me, and you've made it clear you don't even care to fix it." She didn't react the way I thought she would. Instead of getting defensive or denying it, she just shrugged. "Maybe I don't care anymore. Maybe I've been putting up with this for too long." That was the moment everything shifted. I was stunned, but also strangely relieved. I'd been trying so hard to save something that she had already given up on. "Do you even want this marriage anymore?" I asked, my heart racing. She didn't answer right away. She looked at me for a long time, her expression unreadable, then finally sighed and stood up. "I don't know. I need time to think." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Time to think. This wasn't a decision she had to think about. This was my life, my heart, on the line. And yet here she was, just throwing me aside. I watched her walk out of the room, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the coldness of the house. I wasn't just physically alone, I was emotionally abandoned. It was like all the warmth we had built up over the years was just gone. The next few days were unbearable. I still didn't know if she was seeing that guy, or if she had already made up her mind about leaving me for him. My suspicions felt more and more like a reality with each passing minute. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something that had been gnawing at me for a while. This wasn't just about her cheating. This was about her turning into someone I didn't recognize. Someone who was willing to throw away everything we had, without a second thought. That's when the anger hit. It wasn't just about her betrayal anymore. It was about how she had treated me, how she had emotionally manipulated me into questioning myself. And the worst part? I had let her. I couldn't keep living this way. I had to choose me for once. So, I started making changes. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. The woman I had married was gone, and I needed to take control of my life again. I started working out more, eating better, and putting more focus into my job. I wasn't doing it for her. I was doing it for me. I needed to feel like I had a life beyond her, beyond this broken marriage. Slowly, I started seeing the results, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I was gaining back some of the confidence I had lost in her shadow. But even as I was starting to rebuild myself, I still didn't know what to do about her. Part of me wanted to fight for the relationship. The other part of me was scared of getting hurt again. It felt like a huge decision was looming, one that I wasn't ready to make yet. But something inside me told me I had to keep moving forward, with or without her. I spent the next few days trying to get my head on straight. I'd buried myself in work, in gym sessions, and in the little things that made me feel like I was finally taking back control of my life. But despite all the progress I was making, there was still one looming question. What the hell was I going to do about this marriage? I had no idea if she was still seeing that guy. I didn't know if she was even capable of being honest with me anymore. Every time I looked at her, I saw a stranger. This wasn't the woman I had fallen in love with. This was someone else, someone who had put up walls and hidden truths, someone who seemed more interested in avoiding confrontation than actually fixing what was broken. But still, I wasn't ready to give up on us completely. There was that part of me, the part that had spent years building a life together with her, that wanted to believe we could work through this. So, I asked for one more conversation. No more games, no more dancing around the issues. Just us, talking it out for real. She agreed, reluctantly, and we sat down in the living room that evening. The tension was palpable, like we were both holding our breath, waiting for the other to make the first move. I started. "We need to be honest with each other. No more lies, no more pretending." She didn't look at me when she replied. "I've been honest with you," she said, almost bitterly. "You just can't handle it." I was trying to stay calm, but the words cut through me like a knife. "I can't handle it? You're the one who's been hiding things, pushing me away, acting like I don't matter. She shifted uncomfortably on the couch, but didn't say anything right away. I waited, giving her space to speak. I had to know if she was even willing to try. If she wasn't, then this would be the end of the road. Finally, she looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of frustration and something else, maybe guilt, maybe just exhaustion. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know what you expect me to say. I want you to be honest with me. Do you still love me? Do you still want to be with me? Or is this all just a game to you now? I asked, my voice low but steady. She hesitated. Then, with a deep sigh, she finally spoke. I don't know. I don't know what I want anymore. It's like I've been stuck in this rut, and I don't feel the same way about you like I used to. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's us. But I can't keep pretending everything's fine. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. Those words hit me harder than anything she had said before. She was done. She wasn't just checked out emotionally, she had already made up her mind. Is there someone else? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I had to know. I didn't care how painful the answer would be. I just needed to hear it from her. Her silence spoke volumes. After a long, agonizing pause, she finally nodded. Yes, there is. It was like the ground fell away beneath me. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand answers. But instead, I just sat there, numb, unable to process everything I was hearing. This was it. She had already moved on, and I had been holding on to something that wasn't there anymore. I don't know how long I've felt this way, she continued, her voice barely audible. But when I met him, I realized something I've been avoiding for a long time. I don't know if I ever really knew what I wanted, until now. I couldn't look at her anymore. I felt the anger rising in me, but more than that, I felt this overwhelming sadness, like I had wasted so much time and energy trying to fix something that was beyond repair. I guess we're done then, I said, the words tasting bitter as they left my mouth. I can't keep doing this. I deserve more than this. She didn't argue, didn't try to convince me to stay. She just nodded, as if she had already made her peace with the decision. And in that moment, I realized something. I was done too. I was done with the lies, the doubt, the constant wondering if I was enough. I didn't need to beg for someone's love who was already out the door. So, I made the hardest decision of my life. I walked away. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The marriage was over. And now, it was time to move on. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure. I was done being a spectator in my own life. It was time for me to take back control. The weeks that followed were a blur. I don't even know how to describe it. Everything felt surreal, like I was walking through a fog. At first, it was all about logistics. Moving out of the house, getting my things sorted, finding a new place to stay. The physical separation was hard enough, but it wasn't until the silence set in that the emotional weight of everything really hit me. I wasn't just grieving the end of my marriage, I was grieving the loss of who I thought I was, and who I thought we were together. We had built so much together over the years, a home, a life, memories. I had invested so much of myself into this relationship, and now it was all gone. But there was also this strange sense of relief. As much as I missed the good parts of our relationship, her laugh, the way she would curl up next to me at night, the realization that I didn't have to walk on eggshells anymore was a weight lifted off my shoulders. I didn't have to wonder where she was or who she was texting. I didn't have to second-guess every word I said. The hardest part was accepting the fact that she had moved on so easily. I know she had checked out a long time ago, but still, it was brutal. I'd spent so much of my time trying to make things work, trying to be the perfect husband, and in the end, it didn't matter. She had found someone else while I was still fighting for us. It took me a while to stop checking my phone, hoping for a text from her. And when it came, her asking about some things we still needed to sort out, I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she'd destroyed me. But I didn't. Instead, I responded coldly, keeping it strictly business. No emotion, no more back and forth. I had to remind myself that I was done. As I settled into my new place, I began focusing on myself. I threw myself into work, focusing on the projects I'd been neglecting while my mind had been consumed with the mess at home. I started meeting new people, going out with friends, and doing things I hadn't done in years. I even picked up a hobby I'd abandoned when we'd first gotten together, painting. There was something calming about it, like I could finally express myself again in a way I hadn't in a long time. But there were still moments, quiet, lonely moments, where I would catch myself thinking about her, about us, about what went wrong. And in those moments, the bitterness crept back in. The hurt, the anger. It would all resurface, and I'd have to remind myself why I'd left. Why I couldn't keep clinging to someone who wasn't there anymore. I didn't hate her, but I was angry. I was angry at the way she'd treated me, at the way she'd turned everything into a game, and at the way she'd let everything slip away without so much as a fight. But despite it all, I knew I had to let go. I had to stop living in the past. I had to stop letting her dictate my happiness, my future. It wasn't easy, but slowly, I started to realize that I had control over my own life now. It was no longer about her or what she was doing. It was about me, my healing, my growth, my future. And it wasn't just about picking up the pieces of a broken marriage. It was about finding a version of myself that I could be proud of again. I was done being the guy who let someone else define him. I was going to write my own story from here on out. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I was looking forward to it. Time passed, and life started to feel a little more normal. I wasn't completely over everything. There were still days when I'd feel this ache in my chest, this hole where my marriage used to be, but it was getting easier. I had moments where I felt free, like I could breathe again. My career was back on track. My personal life was slowly coming together, and I was starting to reconnect with friends I'd neglected for years. I wasn't exactly happy, but I was functioning again. Then, one random Saturday morning, I ran into her. It was completely unplanned. I was grabbing coffee at this little cafe near my new place, the one I'd started visiting every weekend to get out of the apartment. As I was waiting for my order, I saw her standing by the counter, scrolling through her phone, looking just as I remembered. She hadn't noticed me at first, but I could feel my heart rate spike. The old instinct to avoid her, to hide from the pain, kicked in, but I stood my ground. After everything that had happened, I wasn't going to let her dictate my reaction anymore. So, I walked up to her. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, casual. She looked up, and for a split second, her face softened. It was like she wanted to be friendly, to make small talk, but something stopped her. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just the awkwardness of the situation. "Oh, hey," she said, a little too quickly. "I didn't expect to see you here." I nodded, glancing at my coffee. "Yeah, I come here sometimes. Have you been?" She hesitated before answering. "Good. Busy." The conversation felt stiff, strained. Neither of us knew what to say. So, I went for something light, something neutral. "How's everything going with life?" I didn't want to directly ask about the guy, but I couldn't help myself. There was this knot in my stomach, this curiosity I couldn't shake. Her face twitched, but she recovered quickly. "Life's fine. Just figuring things out." That's when I noticed something, a slight change in her expression. She didn't look at me like she used to. She didn't look at me with contempt or indifference. There was something different in her eyes, something I couldn't quite place. I almost wanted to ask her about it, but I stopped myself. I didn't owe her any explanations, and I wasn't in the mood for her cryptic answers. Just then, she glanced at the door, and for the briefest moment, her entire demeanor shifted. She looked uncomfortable, like she was waiting for something, or someone. Before I could process it, a man walked in, and her eyes locked onto him instantly. He was tall, with a strong build, and there was this familiarity between them. The way he smiled at her, the way she greeted him, it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's him, the guy I had been suspecting. But there was something about this moment, something that felt off. She introduced him to me as James, but I didn't feel the usual sting of jealousy or anger. No, there was something else this time. Something deeper. They talked for a few minutes, and I could feel the tension growing between us. I excused myself politely, but as I turned to leave, I caught her gaze. For a second, it wasn't just a glance. There was something in the way she looked at me, a kind of recognition, maybe even a hint of regret. It was the kind of look you give someone when you know there's unfinished business, when you realize that maybe, just maybe, you've made a mistake. I didn't know what to make of it. Part of me wanted to confront her, to ask what was really going on, to demand answers. But I didn't. I just walked away. Later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the way she looked at me, about the guy she was with, and about all the unanswered questions still swirling in my head. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more going on here, something bigger than just a simple affair. And then, just when I thought I was done with all of this, I got a message from her. "Can we talk? I need to explain something." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. What the hell could she possibly need to explain? After everything that had happened, why would she suddenly want to talk? But there was that nagging feeling, that pull in my gut that told me this wasn't over yet. I wasn't sure if I was ready for whatever truth she was about to drop on me, but something told me I had to hear it. And that's when I realized, maybe I hadn't been ready to move on after all. Maybe the story wasn't finished. I couldn't sleep that night. The message from her kept running through my mind, like a loop I couldn't escape. Can we talk? I need to explain something. It felt like the last thread of this whole messed up situation was dangling in front of me, and I had to decide whether to pull it or let it unravel on its own. I debated ignoring it, pretending I didn't care anymore, but I knew deep down that I couldn't. There was something in me that needed closure, something that was still tied to her, even if I hated admitting it. So, the next evening, I replied, keeping it simple. Okay. When? She suggested we meet at a park near her place. I didn't know what to expect, but I wasn't nervous in the way I thought I'd be. Instead, I was curious. Not just about the guy, not just about the lies. I wanted to know what the hell had been going on in her head, what she had been keeping from me. When I arrived at the park, I saw her sitting on a bench, her arms crossed, her head down like she was trying to gather her thoughts. As soon as I approached, she looked up, and for a split second, I saw that vulnerability in her eyes, the one I hadn't seen in a long time. I'm sorry I dragged you into this, she started before I could say anything. I don't know how to explain all of this without sounding like a mess. I sat down beside her, keeping some distance, but not enough to make her feel shut out. What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. She took a deep breath, looking away for a moment as if searching for the right words. The truth is, I've been trying to figure things out for a long time. After everything that happened between us, I thought I could just move on, pretend like everything was fine. But the thing is, I've been hiding something from you. From everyone. My gut twisted. I knew something was off, but I wasn't prepared for this. Something about James? I asked, trying to piece it together. Her face paled a little, and she nodded. Yes, but not in the way you think. She paused, clearly gathering the courage to keep going. James isn't just some guy I met. He's my brother. I blinked, stunned into silence for a moment. Your brother? Yeah, she said, her voice quiet but firm. I know it sounds crazy, but when you saw us together that day at the cafe, I knew you were confused. Hell, I was confused too. I didn't know how to tell you that James was actually my half-brother. I only found out a few months ago, after I did one of those DNA tests. It turns out my dad had another family, and I never knew. It took me a moment to process what she was saying. So you're telling me, James is your brother, and you've been hiding this from me for how long? Since the beginning of the year, she replied, looking guilty. When I found out, it just threw everything into chaos. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to bring it up, especially with everything else going on in our marriage. It felt like one more thing that would just make everything worse. So I kept it quiet. I didn't even tell anyone except a few close friends. But the more I kept it from you, the more distant I became. I was struggling to wrap my head around it. You've been seeing your brother, and I thought you were cheating? Is that what you're saying? She nodded, her eyes filled with regret. Yes, I get why you'd think that. It probably looked that way, but I never meant for it to look like that. I swear, I wasn't hiding him from you because I was seeing him. I was hiding the whole situation because I didn't know how to explain it. And I didn't want to make things harder than they already were. Her words hit me harder than I expected. The anger that had been bubbling up inside me started to fade, replaced by confusion and, for some strange reason, empathy. I had been so quick to jump to conclusions. I had assumed the worst when there was something entirely different going on. I wasn't ready to forgive her, not yet, but a small part of me understood the fear she had felt. The fear of revealing something so personal, so complicated, when everything else in our relationship was already falling apart. Why didn't you just tell me sooner? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. We could have worked through this. Hell, I could have helped you. I didn't know how, she admitted, her voice shaking now. And I thought if I kept everything the way it was, if I ignored it, maybe it would go away. But it didn't. And in the meantime, I pushed you away, and I didn't even realize how much I was hurting you. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside me. So, all this time, I was accusing you of cheating, and you were really just dealing with this whole family secret? I couldn't believe how everything had been misinterpreted. She nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. I never meant to hurt you. I was just lost. I've been lost for so long, trying to figure out where I fit in all of this. And I kept pushing you away because I was scared of losing you, of you not understanding. The silence between us felt heavy, but for the first time in a long while, it wasn't filled with resentment. It was filled with the kind of sadness that comes from realizing how far things had gone off track. I didn't know what to do with this information. Part of me felt relief that it wasn't some long-term affair or betrayal. But another part of me felt stupid for not trusting her, for not seeing the pain she had been carrying. I wasn't sure if I was ready to rebuild anything with her, but I knew this wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. Are you still seeing him? I asked, my voice softer now. No, she said quickly. We've been talking, yes. But it's just family stuff now. I swear. I sat back, processing it all. I had come here expecting to hear some earth-shattering confession, some deep, dark secret. But what I got was an explanation, a complicated, messy one, but still an explanation. I didn't know where we went from here. But I knew one thing for sure, the truth was never as simple as it seemed. I sat there on the park bench for what felt like hours, trying to absorb everything she had just told me. Her words echoed in my mind. James isn't just some guy. He's my brother. The revelation was so unexpected, so surreal, that I found myself questioning everything I thought I knew. But as I looked at her sitting there, eyes filled with regret and exhaustion, I realized that she wasn't the enemy here. She wasn't the villain I had painted her to be in my head. We were both just two people caught in a storm of misunderstandings, miscommunications, and too much silence. You should have told me, I finally said, my voice steady now, but still carrying the weight of everything. We could have worked through it. You didn't have to keep pushing me away. She nodded, tears running down her cheeks. I know. I'm so sorry. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you, and I didn't want to add more confusion to an already messed up situation. I sighed, feeling the weight of everything lift just a little. You could have trusted me. We could have figured it out together. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The quiet between us wasn't uncomfortable, though it felt like we were both letting the last remnants of everything we'd been through settle in the air around us. I realized then that, despite everything, there was still something left. The love wasn't gone. It was just buried under all the pain and confusion. Maybe it wasn't the same love we had before, but it was there. We both felt it. I didn't know if I could go back to being the person I was before all of this. But I knew I couldn't keep running from the truth anymore. It was clear now that the marriage wasn't just broken because of infidelity or betrayal. It was broken because we stopped communicating, because we stopped being honest with each other. And if we wanted to salvage anything from this mess, we had to start with that. I don't know what's next, I said, looking out at the park, trying to find the words to make sense of it all. But I think we both need time. Time to heal, to figure out what we want. I'm not saying we're done for good, but I'm also not sure if we can just pick up where we left off. We need to figure out who we are apart before we figure out who we are together. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight, and I'm not asking for that. I just wanted you to know the truth. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to be the person I became. I know, I said quietly. But you did. And I did, too. The words hung in the air between us, both an apology and an acknowledgement of everything that had happened. I stood up, feeling the weight of everything still there, but somehow lighter than it had been in so long. Let's just take it one step at a time, okay? No pressure. No pretending. Just figuring it out. She stood too, her eyes searching mine for a sign of something, anything, maybe hope, maybe just some sign that things could still be salvaged. I can do that, she said softly. We stood there for a moment, not sure what to say next, but for the first time in a long time, there was no anger, no resentment. Just two people who had been through hell and back, trying to find their way forward. In the weeks that followed, we both took the time we needed. I focused more on myself, on my career, my personal growth, and my friends. I wasn't in a hurry to fix the marriage. I needed to understand who I was without her before I could even think about rebuilding with her. She did the same. She started going to therapy to deal with the secrets she'd kept hidden for so long, to unravel the reasons behind the walls she'd built. We didn't rush back into each other's lives. Instead, we spent time apart, learning to live without the other person, figuring out what we really wanted and who we truly were, beyond the marriage. And then, one day, I found myself sitting across from her at a coffee shop, no tension, no hesitation. We were just two people talking, no baggage, no hidden truths between us. And as we talked, I realized that, while we had changed, we still had something worth holding on to. We agreed that we weren't ready to dive back into the marriage right away. We both needed time to heal, time to grow. But we also realized that we still cared for each other deeply, and that was something we couldn't ignore. The future was uncertain, but it was ours to navigate, no longer clouded by secrets. The last few months had taught me more than I ever expected. It wasn't about jumping straight to a perfect ending or rushing to fix everything. It was about taking ownership of my own happiness, about learning how to stand on my own 2 feet without the crutch of a relationship that wasn't serving me. And through that process, I realized that whether or not we ended up together, I was capable of moving forward on my own. So, we kept moving forward, together, but separately. Whether we stayed together or went our separate ways, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't the same person I had been when this whole mess started. And for that, I was grateful.